Well, hi guys, it's that time. It's our Bible teaching snippet of the day. Well, I've had some really interesting traffic coming in through my Messenger Facebook account. I've had people ask me to explain how I ended up becoming a vegan. Was Jesus a vegetarian? And to please do a teaching on the fact that Jesus did not eat fish because at first glance looks like the Bible teaches that. So I've got all of this going on. So today I think I'm going to bite into a little bit of a Q&A and talk about how I became a vegetarian and slowly moved into becoming whole foods, plant-based vegetarian, okay? So let's start here. Let me say this, okay? There's basically three reasons that anybody becomes a vegetarian / vegan. Vegetarian means that you eat fruits and vegetables, but you would also partake in the byproducts of animals, which would be milk, cheese, eggs, things like that, okay? So you're not killing the animal, you're just having part of the byproducts from an animal. And then, of course, vegan means that you're not going to eat anything that has anything to do with an animal. It's basically fruits and vegetables and things like that, okay? So let's start with, there's three reasons that people basically what I see is two reasons why people become vegetarian or vegan. The biggest reason for age groups, let's say between the age of 35 and 40, when people start passing those ages, that age group, and they start getting beyond those years, their number one motivation and reasoning is health. Their bodies are beginning to show the response of their lifestyle. And so many of them have heart disease, diabetes, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, all kinds of problems, okay? And what's happened is they have ran through the medical system of taking medicines, and many times the medicines have worse side effects than what they're taking the medicines for. But so the medicines aren't working, their body is in such dis-ease that they don't want to just make it anymore because their bodies are hurting, they're in pain, and they're sick, and they're in bed and stuff, okay? So that's what I see in that age group is that, and so many times they've come to a point where they have to change their diet or just go ahead and be miserable until they die because the medicines they're taking is not helping mask what's really going on inside their body. So now they either have to change their diet or just go ahead and jump in on that being addicted to pain medications. And some people decide to be on pain medications instead of changing their lifestyle. That's the first reason that I see with people from the age of 35 to 40, older than that. But what I see with people who are under that age is a morality issue. They cannot live in a society and accept the cruelty that we do to animals. And they don't agree with that, and they're actually willing to lay down maybe some of their culture and tradition of eating that they were brought up in at home, and they're willing to change their lifestyle so that animals don't suffer. And if you look into feedlots, and it's real easy for us to go open a menu and order a steak when we don't have to watch that animal have its throat cut and it's bled out and chopped into little pieces. It's easy to eat the end result when you're not involved in the violence and cruelty, right? So those are the two reasons that I see why people become vegan. Now, I'm going to share some personal things with you today. I didn't become a vegan for either. Well, maybe morality would play into it with me because I do absolutely love animals. I'm the girl that stops on the side of the road and moves the dead body of an animal out of the street because I see no reason for people to keep running over it and just splattering it everywhere. If I see an animal hurt, I will stop to try to help it. Now, I absolutely do not have health trouble, and I did not change my diet because of my health. I'm on no medications. And although cruelty to animals has been dear to my heart, what really made me change was my study about the false doctrine, I call it a lie, of hell, that the Roman Catholic Church put into Christianity in the 5th century through St. Augustine. I started studying that lie. It led me into the belief of the early church from Jesus all the way up through the 5th century. The early church believed in the restitution of all things. We find that in Acts chapter 21. They absolutely believed that. They did not believe in an angry God who was going to punish people for all eternity in a place called hell with no mercy and no end. They believed that God would purify people and cleanse their heart of evil and wickedness and make them fit to live in his kingdom. Okay, so it's the restitution or restoration of all things is what they believed. Now, these early church fathers or church leaders that believed this, and by the way, the Eastern Orthodox people have never walked away from believing the restitution of all things. They have never believed in the Roman Catholic lie about eternal conscious torment in hell. So the restitution of all things, I was reading all of these different quotes that these church leaders made, and some of them were women, about how God was absolutely, totally, 100% victorious. His big plan was an absolute success, that all things would be restored, all of creation, and all of mankind would be restored because Jesus had total victory. The plan was in place before the foundation of the world. God worked the plan through and with Jesus, and it is a done deal, okay? With our participation or without our participation, and he will work through mankind's choices. I want to throw this in today. Did you know that God is not short on time? We may be, but he's not. Through his patience and working through every person's own choices, one day with the Lord is like 1,000, and 1,000 is one day, okay? So if it takes, and it's not forever, the word forever isn't a good meaning to what our Bibles are trying to teach us. The ages of the ages. Did you know God has plenty of ages? He can just go take us from age to age to age, and however long it takes to purify a person really depends on their wickedness and how much purification it takes for them to be purified. That will feel like judgment and punishment to many people, but actually what it is it's God's judgment for us, all of mankind. His judgment is for all of mankind, that we were created for more than this, better than this, and he's going to keep purifying until it all is gone and they're fit for a king's kingdom, okay? Now, let's talk about when I was studying that hell and it led to restoration of all things. These same church leaders that talked about this restitution of all things, okay, that we see, they also were vegetarians. And many of their quotes that I started running upon talked about how that it was demonic, it was devilish, and it was evil, and it was sin for man to take the life of animals and eat its flesh. And that, so it was a connection for me. I saw this and I'm like, okay, well I've never heard of that before. And then many of them talked about that Jesus was a vegetarian. And that set me off on yet another set of studies. So I'm studying hell doctrine, the restitution of all things doctrine. That was always the belief of the early church through the 5th century. God's going to restore all things to himself. He did that on the cross, and now he's working the rest of that plan, right? But then I started studying that Jesus was actually and truly a vegetarian. All of the people in Nazareth, the people in Galilee, they were vegetarian. The Essenes out in the desert, it was a community of vegetarians. They did not buy into the Mosaic law and that part of the Israelite beliefs. They did not do sacrifices. They did water cleansing, purification in their baptismal pools, not animal sacrifices, okay? The washing away of their sins, not the killing of a living being for forgiveness of sin, okay? And they did not believe in taking the life of an animal to satisfy a flesh desire of meat. They were vegetarians. John the Baptist lived with the Essenes, the man in the desert. John the Baptist, he lived out with the Essenes for a period of time. John the Baptist was a vegetarian. John the Baptist did not eat grasshoppers called locusts. There's a thing called a locust tree that bears fruit. And there's a thing called John's bread that is made from the fruit of that locust tree. Additionally, there is a plant that grows out of the ground that's called a locust plant, and it grows more like a potato plant, where the potatoes grow under the surface of the dirt off of the root system, and that's a locust plant. It's under the dirt, so if you get down toward the root system, you can get what the vegetable that plant is growing. So no, John the Baptist was a vegetarian as well. Okay, so guys, when I started reading about Jesus being a vegetarian, I started really digging in and studying this. And it's really, let's think on these things, okay? Number one, do we see where Jesus says, pray like this, let it be done in heaven as it is on earth, or let it be done on earth as it is in heaven, thy will be done, the prayer, his role model prayer. Do we see feedlots of animals in heaven where there's angels weighing the animal to see if it's big enough to slit its throat, chop it up into pieces, and feed everybody in heaven with it? Of course not, right? Okay, so when we pray, Father, your will be done on this earth, the same as it's already being done in heaven right now, we don't really mean that when we're wanting and desiring to eat dead animals, okay? So that's one thing I want to bring out about that Jesus did not eat animals. Let's go over to the Bible. Let's go, and I said this the other day when I was teaching, I said if we go back to the first few chapters of Genesis, it'll clear up a lot of misunderstandings that we have today. So let's just go back to the beginning, right? It's what the word Genesis means, by the way, is the beginning. God creates the heavens and earth. He separates the waters, all of that, okay? He brings the earth out, and then he puts the plants, the trees in the earth. Then he puts the animals, the water fowl, the water animals, and then he does the land-based animals, all the way through that. And then we get down to Genesis chapter 1, verse 29. And God tells mankind, I have given you all of the plants and the trees, basically the foliage, to eat from. You and the animals. Okay. So when you see that, you know what God's will is and what he wanted for mankind. He knew what we needed to stay healthy and strong. He also knew what it took for the earth to stay healthy and strong, peaceful and nonviolent, right? So he created a nonviolent, peaceful world for us to exist in. If Jesus only did the Father's will, he only does what he sees the Father doing. Guys, Jesus would never kill an animal to eat it because he would live a peaceful, nonviolent lifestyle because of that was the Father's spoken will from the beginning. Now, I'm going to wrap this up today, and I'll do a few more teachings on this, and if you have comments or questions, I usually know what the comments and questions really are. But let me say why, again, I became a vegan. I studied hours upon hundreds of hours of writings and literature and proof that Jesus was absolutely a vegetarian. And if my Lord was a vegetarian, nonviolent, plant eater, then this old girl is going to follow Jesus. Will I have the benefit of health from that? Absolutely. If you study that out, you will find out almost every disease that we suffer in America can be cured and goes away through a plant-based diet. We trim down automatically without even dieting. And morality. We're not cruel to the creatures anymore. Romans 8:19 says that all of creation is moaning and groaning. Well, wouldn't you be moaning and groaning if somebody gave you an opportunity to either get your throat slit or your head shot with a pistol? See, that's not peaceful, nonviolent living. But my reason is a little bit different from a health or simply morality. Morality plays into it, no doubt. That would probably be my second reason. But when I found out Jesus was a vegetarian, guys, I was just totally done. I'm like, okay, Lord, I will not eat any meat anymore. You didn't, and I don't need to either. So tomorrow I'll pick up on this. So I'm going to sign off today. I love you, and I will see you here. Bye-bye.